Welcome back to Research Methods course. I'm Brian,
And I'm Lucy.
and today we're going to look at something
We are.
that's really going to kind of up your game
Yeah,
when it comes to working with research.
absolutely.
Um, and that is how to move from just summarizing
Right.
to um, analyzing.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
we all know that we've got to read the research,
Yeah,
but what do we do with it after we read it?
exactly. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck.
Yeah.
They read the study,
Yeah.
they understand it, but then how do you actually utilize that information?
Right, and how do you talk about it in
Yeah.
a way that shows that you're engaging with it
Yeah.
critically?
Absolutely.
So that's what we're going to be looking at today.
That's our goal.
And we're going to use some examples
Yes.
from the field of language teaching and learning.
Okay.
But these ideas,
Mm-hmm.
these concepts, these strategies can really be applied to any
Any
field
field.
of research.
Absolutely.
Okay, so are you ready to get started?
I'm excited.
Okay, so let's look at our first pair of examples.
Okay.
And these both have to do with research on feedback.
Okay.
And we all know how important feedback is.
Oh, absolutely crucial.
Right. So, Lucy, why don't you read the first example?
Okay, so the first example says, Smith, 2013, examines how feedback affects second language writing. Johnson, 2015, also explores feedback but focuses on peer feedback instead of teacher feedback. Kim, 2018, discusses corrective feedback in online learning environments.
Okay, so we've got Smith looking at feedback in general,
Right.
Johnson focusing on peer feedback,
Yeah.
and Kim looking at online learning environments.
Right. More specifically, corrective feedback in those environments.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's example one.
Mhm.
Now let's look at example two. I'll read this one. While Smith, 2013, highlights the importance of teacher feedback in improving second language writing, Johnson, 2015, critiques this view by arguing that peer feedback fosters greater learner autonomy and engagement. However, both studies focus on traditional classroom settings, overlooking the role of digital learning environments. Addressing this gap, Kim, 2018, investigates corrective feedback in online learning and suggests that digital platforms provide more immediate and personalized feedback, which may enhance language acquisition. Collectively, these studies illustrate an ongoing debate about the effectiveness of different feedback types, highlighting the need for further research on how feedback strategies interact with different learning contexts.
Wow, that second example was a lot more in depth, wasn't it?
It was.
You know, it wasn't just a summary of what each of those authors found. It really dug deeper and tried to make connections between those different perspectives.
So what do you see as the main differences between these two examples?
Well, I think the first example, like you said, it's just a summary. It's just kind of listing
yeah.
who did what.
Uh-huh.
But that second example, it's really trying to analyze,
Okay.
It's comparing and contrasting those studies.
Right.
It's pointing out, where they agree and disagree. And
Yeah.
it's also highlighting some of the gaps in the research,
Yeah.
like the fact that none of those first studies really looked at online learning until Kim came along.
And it also kind of brings it all together
Yeah.
at the end by talk about how, this is all part of a bigger conversation
Absolutely.
about feedback.
And it even suggests, like, what needs to be researched next.
Yeah, like what the next steps are.
Right?
So that's really useful information.
Totally.
What else do you notice about that second example?
Well, one thing that jumps out at me is the use of linking words.
Okay.
Like, while, however, addressing this gap. Those are all signals to the reader that help us understand how the ideas are connected.
And those transitions really help to create that flow.
Yeah,
So it's not just kind of like a choppy list of things.
right, exactly. It's
Yeah.
a more cohesive argument.
Yeah, and I also noticed the use of evaluative language in that second example.
Oh, yeah, like what?
Phrases like critiques this view or suggests that,
Mm-hmm.
those show that the writer is really engaging with the research.
Yeah.
They're not just reporting what the researcher said,
Mhm.
they're actually evaluating it and interpreting it.
Right, and I think that's really what sets analytical writing apart
Yeah.
from just summarizing.
Wow.
That's that critical thinking piece.
Right.
That ability to step back and look at the research
Yeah.
from a more holistic perspective.
Okay, so we've seen one example of descriptive writing
Right.
and one example of analytical writing.
Yes.
Let's look at another pair of examples.
Okay, sounds good.
This time, we're going to focus on research about different theories
Okay.
of language learning. So, Lucy, why don't you read the first example?
All right, so this one says, Krashen, 1982, states that input is crucial for language learning. Swain, 1995, believes that output is important. Long, 1996, discusses how interaction helps second language development.
Okay, so Krashen is all about input.
Right.
Swain is about output,
Uh-huh.
and Long is looking at interaction.
Yes.
Okay, so now I'll read the second example.
Okay.
And this is the more analytical one. While Krashen, 1982, emphasizes the necessity of comprehensible input in second language acquisition, Swain, 1995, critiques this view by highlighting the essential role of output in reinforcing linguistic accuracy and fluency. However, Long, 1996, bridges the gap between these perspectives by arguing that interaction plays a mediating role, combining both input and output to facilitate deeper language processing. Long's perspective suggests that language learning is not solely about receiving or producing language, but about engaging in meaningful communication, which allows learners to negotiate meaning and internalize linguistic structures. This debate highlights the shift from a passive reception model of language learning to an interactive, socially constructed process.
Wow, that was a mouthful.
It was.
But I think it really illustrated
Yeah.
how these different theories relate to each other and how our understanding of language learning has evolved over time.
And I think that's one of the key things that analytical writing can do
Yes.
is to show how ideas have developed and changed over time. So what else do you notice about that second example?
Well, we see those same elements of analytical writing that we talked about before.
Yeah.
Comparison, contrast.
Uh-huh.
The use of linking words.
Oh.
For example, that phrase bridges the gap is really effective.
I like that one.
Yeah, it shows how Long's work is connecting
Right.
the ideas of Krashen and Swain.
Yeah, like building a bridge between their two perspectives.
Exactly.
And then it goes on to explain how Long bridges that gap,
Right.
right? By talking about the role of interaction.
Yeah. So it's not just saying that he bridges the gap.
Huh?
It's actually explaining how he does it.
Right. And I really like that last sentence in that second example.
Oh, yeah, me too. It's a good one.
This debate highlights the shift from a passive reception model of language learning to an interactive, socially constructed process.
Yes, it really sums up the significance of this whole theoretical debate.
Right. It shows how these ideas have practical implications
Exactly.
for how we teach and learn languages. So it's not just an abstract academic discussion.
Right. It has real-world relevance,
It does.
which is what we want.
Exactly. So what can our listeners take away from these two examples?
Well, I think the main takeaway is that analytical writing is about going beyond description.
Uh-huh.
It's about making connections,
Right.
drawing conclusions,
Yeah.
and really engaging with the research in a thoughtful way.
And using those tools that we've been talking about.
Yes.
Comparison, contrast,
Evaluative language,
linking words,
all of that good stuff.
all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I bet our listeners are ready
I hope so.
to try this out themselves.
Me too. I think it's time for a challenge.
A challenge.
A challenge.
All right, so we're going to give you a paragraph
Okay.
that needs some analytical help.
A little makeover.
A makeover,
Mhm.
and your mission, if you choose to accept it,
Yes.
is to rewrite it.
To transform
To
it.
transform it from a simple summary
Right.
into a compelling and insightful analysis.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, you ready for the paragraph?
I am. I'm ready.
Okay, here it is. Brown, 2010, discusses the role of motivation in second language acquisition. Williams, 2012, also focuses on motivation, but applies it to classroom engagement. Lee, 2015, explores motivation, but from a sociocultural perspective.
Okay, so we've got Brown talking about motivation in general,
Right.
Williams looking at it in the classroom,
Uh-huh.
and Lee taking a broader sociocultural perspective.
Exactly.
All right, so listeners, your challenge is to take this information
Yes.
and turn it into a really strong analytical paragraph.
Remember those key elements we've been talking about?
Yeah,
like
yes.
compare and contrast,
Use evaluative language,
linking words,
all of that good stuff.
all that good stuff.
Yes.
So pause the deep dive,
Take your time.
take your time,
Think it through.
and when you're ready,
We'll be here.
we'll be here to share our version
Yes.
and to guide you through the next step
Absolutely.
in our analytical writing journey.
Can't wait.
Okay, see you soon.
Bye. Welcome back, everyone. So how'd you do with that analytical writing challenge?
Yeah, are those analytical muscles feeling the burn a little bit?
A little sore.
Hopefully in a good way, though, right?
I hope so. I hope so.
Like a good workout, you know?
Yes.
Okay, so let's revisit that paragraph that we gave you about motivation.
Okay, let's take a look.
I'll just read that original weak version one more time.
All right.
Brown, 2010, discusses the role of motivation in second language acquisition. Williams, 2012, also focuses on motivation but applies it to classroom engagement. Lee, 2015, explores motivation but from a sociocultural perspective.
So pretty basic, right?
Yeah, pretty straightforward, just listing those studies.
Yeah, no real analysis going on there.
Okay, so drums, please.
Oh, yes, the moment of truth.
Here is our analytical makeover. While Brown, 2010, establishes a foundational understanding of motivation in second language acquisition, Williams, 2012, extends this concept by specifically examining its impact on classroom engagement. However, Lee, 2015, offers a contrasting perspective, exploring motivation through a sociocultural lens and suggesting that factors beyond individual drive, such as social and cultural contexts, significantly influence learner motivation.
Ah, I like it.
What do you think?
I think it's much improved.
Much improved, yeah.
Much more analytical.
So, listeners, did you come up with something similar?
I'm curious to see what everyone came up with.
Maybe even better than ours. You never know.
Yeah, definitely share your versions in the comments.
Yeah, we'd love to see them.
All right, so let's break down a few of the key changes that we made.
Okay, good idea.
Right away, we use that linking word while to connect Brown's work to Williams's work.
Right.
Showing that transition from that general idea of motivation
Right.
to that more specific focus on classroom engagement.
And we use the word extends to show how Williams's work kind of builds upon Brown's.
Exactly.
Not just a separate study, it's adding to our understanding.
Right, it's taking it a step further.
And then we used, however, to signal that shift to Lee's perspective,
Right.
which is a little bit different.
Yes, a contrasting perspective.
Yeah, and we even use that phrase contrasting perspective
We did.
to make that really clear.
Yes, to alert the reader like, hey,
Pay attention.
something new is coming here.
Yeah.
A different way of looking at this.
And we also use some evaluative language in there,
We did.
like suggesting that,
Yes.
to show that we're really thinking about the implications of Lee's research.
And drawing our own conclusions.
Right.
It's not just a book report.
Yeah.
We're actually engaging with these ideas.
We're thinking about it.
Yes.
Okay, so now you're probably wondering,
Well, I know I am.
how do I know if my analytical writing is any good?
Right. Like,
Yeah.
how do I know if I'm on the right track?
Well, that's where peer review comes in.
Oh, yes, peer review. It's so valuable.
It's like having a friend read your work
Yeah, or a colleague.
and give you feedback.
And hopefully it's constructive feedback.
Yes, constructive is key.
Right. We want feedback that's going to help us improve.
Yeah, not just tear us down.
No negativity.
So what should you look for when you're reviewing a peer's work?
Well, we've put together a little checklist.
Oh, nice.
To help guide you through the process.
Okay, I like it. Checklists are always good.
They're so helpful.
All right, so what's number one on our checklist?
Number one is, does the writing analyze instead of just summarizing?
Okay, that seems pretty basic.
It does, but you'd be surprised.
Yeah, I guess it's easy to slip back into that summarizing mode.
It is. It's easy to just kind of default to describing
Right.
what the study says.
So we really want to see that analysis.
Yes, we want to see those connections, those comparisons, those evaluations.
Is the writer really engaging with the research?
Right? Are they thinking critically about it?
Okay, so that's number one.
Number one.
What's number two?
Number two are different studies compared and connected.
Okay, so are they using those linking words
They better be.
to show how those studies relate to each other?
Yes, because that's what creates that flow,
That beautiful flow.
that cohesive argument.
Okay, number three.
Number three are evaluative words used.
Okay, so words like critiques or challenges or supports.
Yes, or suggests or implies.
All those words that show that the writer,
is thinking.
for themselves, not just parroting what the research says.
Okay, number four.
Number four, does the writing flow logically with clear transitions?
Ah, yes, the flow.
The flow.
So important.
It's all about the flow.
We want that writing to be smooth and easy to follow.
Like a lazy river,
a lazy river.
just gliding along,
I like that.
enjoying the scenery.
Okay, so there you have it.
Our 4-point checklist.
For peer review,
Use it wisely.
yes, be constructive,
Be specific.
and most importantly, be kind.
Yes, kindness is key.
Oh,
Ways. All right, so now it's your turn. Yes, listeners.
put this checklist to good use.
Go forth and peer review.
Share your rewritten paragraphs.
Read other people's paragraphs.
Give each other feedback.
And let's all become better analytical writers together.
Yes, it's a community effort.
A community of analytical thinkers.
I love it. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
It is. It's like we're all in this together.
Yes, a community of learners supporting each other.
And I love the idea that analytical thinking isn't just for academics. You know,
Oh, absolutely.
it's a skill that we can all use
It's a life skill.
in our everyday lives to make better decisions,
To understand the world around us.
to solve problems.
Yes. Okay.
So how can we apply these techniques that we've learned about analytical writing to our everyday lives?
Well, I think one thing that really stands out to me is those linking words.
Oh, yeah.
Like while and however. Those are so useful for articulating our thoughts clearly
In any situation.
in any situation, right?
Like, imagine you're having a debate with your friend
Oh, I love a good debate.
about something, a current event.
Yes.
And instead of just saying, well, I think this,
Right.
you could say, well, while I understand your point about X,
Hmm.
I also think it's important to consider Y.
Right.
However, I do agree with you that Z is a factor.
Yes.
It's like you're showing
Exactly.
that you're really thinking about it
Yeah.
from different angles.
And that you're not just like stuck in your own opinion. You're open to other perspectives.
And you're using those linking words
Yes.
to create a more nuanced
A more nuanced argument.
argument. Yeah.
A more sophisticated argument.
A more sophisticated conversation.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what we want, right?
That's what we want.
More sophisticated conversations.
Absolutely.
Less shouting matches.
More listening, more understanding.
Yes.
And I think those analytical skills are also really helpful
Yeah.
when it comes to evaluating information.
Oh, yeah. Especially these days.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, with all the information overload.
So much information.
Right? It's everywhere. We're bombarded with it constantly.
So we really need to be able to sift through it
Yes.
and figure out what's reliable,
What's credible?
what's not,
What's biased?
what's not.
What's fake news?
Oh, gosh. Yes, fake news.
It's a jungle out there.
It is. So those analytical skills can really help us navigate that jungle.
They can be our compass.
Or compass.
Our machete.
Or machete to cut through all the underbrush.
Yes, exactly.
So use those tools.
Yes, use them wisely.
Be critical thinkers.
Be curious.
Ask questions.
Challenge assumptions.
And make informed decisions.
Yes.
Well, that brings us to the end
Already.
of our deep dive.
I feel like we just got started.
I know time flies when you're having fun analyzing things.
It really does.
But we hope you found this deep dive
Insightful.
engaging,
Memory-provoking.
and maybe even a little bit analytical.
I hope so.
So keep practicing those analytical writing skills.
And those analytical thinking skills.
Share your progress with us in the comments.
We'd love to hear from you.
And remember, the journey of learning never ends.
It's a lifelong journey.
So keep those analytical minds sharp.
And keep asking those questions.
Until next time, happy researching.
Bye, everyone.